that's all fine and good when you're talking about screwing up some federal program. It's a little more disturbing when Israel is a glowing cinder. And I'm very worried about this administration's foreign policy. I mean, the decision on missile defense, I'm entirely open to the argument that deploying the system wasn't a good idea. But once you've cut the deals and you've deployed the system, to unilaterally renege on it is crazy. I mean, at least Neville Chamberlain got a piece of paper, right? This was an anticipatory concession, and I think the administration more generally has been terribly caught off guard, sort of analogous to the Tea Party stuff. I think there were a lot of people in this administration, starting with Obama, who really thought that the election of a guy named Barack Hussein Obama, who's black, had, the charisma that he had, that the whole world would drop what it's doing and transform itself as this glorious moment of kumbaya. And North Korea did what North Korea should be expected to do, because it's a crazy regime, and started lobbing missiles around and building more nukes and all the rest. And Iran did what we should expect them to do. Asabi, scorpion in the story has a stinging frog, causes a scorpion. North Korea is willing to immiserate huge percentages of its own people and put them in concentration camps we haven't seen since the Holocaust. But somehow they're going to be filled with hope and change and the spirit of, whatever. And it was ludicrous. So I think there's a lot of naivete. And on the international scene, I don't have all of that much out. I think things are going to get worse before they get better. And I don't know that there's much the loyal opposition can do with it. On that chain.
I was going to say, over this past summer, we've been told, don't use that word fascism. Yet, hasn't liberal fascism really come into play?
Yes, and for $9.99. Look, I got so much grief for my book, for all sorts of reasons. But one of the lines of attack was I was, obsessed with picking on Hillary, blah, 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 blah. And then lo and behold, Barack Obama comes along and beats Hillary Clinton. And I think Barack Obama on the hardcover appears maybe twice. And all of a sudden, getting all this flack from people saying, well, you just wrote that book to undermine Barack Obama. Barack Obama was an obscure state legislator no one had ever heard of when he started working on it. And it seems to me that in many ways, Barack Obama is the best proof of my thesis. He came along out of the blue on a charismatic, as a sort of man on a white horse kind of thing, charismatic leader who cultivated a political religion sensibility. His volunteers were taught to, during the campaign, were told, don't talk about the issues. Instead, you should testify about how you came to Obama, the way one talks about coming to Jesus. And time and again, the themes of Obama's campaign, a whole chapter in the book about corporatism, government and big business getting bed together. Now we're looking at government and big business in bed together like we haven't seen since one of Caligula's orgies. And it was an amazing thing. After the election, the same people, and I joke about it, the same people were loading up on guns and bottles of water, seemed to be buying my book as some sort of field guide. And so on the one hand, I take great pride in the fact that I think I was right in what I was describing as the sort of animating spirits of liberalism in America today. And I think that Obama came out of nowhere and personified them even better than Hillary Clinton. It was a wonderful confirmation. At the same time, I should just say, as a matter of responsibility, one of my hopes for writing the book was I was going to remove the word fascist from the political discourse. I was hopelessly naive. And what I don't like is people, and I say nowhere in my book that Hillary Clinton or any of the Democratic leadership or Barack Obama in the paperback I was going after, nowhere in any of that do I say that these people are going to turn into genocidal, murdering dictators like I don't think, and it's not so much because I good, but because the American people are so good. We are a liberty-loving people across the ideological spectrum. Just understand, one side of the spectrum is very confused. And I have nothing but skepticism, the idea that we would turn into a country that threats around. You know, Italy, which invented magic, didn't turn into a country that started around. That had to be done basically at the point of a gun for me. And we are much more liberty-loving people than they were. So what I don't want is to have my book seem like a license for people going around saying things that are not only slandering these people, but worse, they're slandering the decency of the American. But other than that, yippee-ki-yay, because I was right.
Here in New Mexico, I don't know, I personally feel sometimes isolated. I know a lot of New Mexicans feel isolated. We're in a desert with no water, so I still feel like we're an island sometimes from the main coast and that sort of thing. And one of basically my involvement, my interest in politics is through the entertainment industry, through the culture. You mentioned Breitbart and Hollywood. And I think that there is a forming network and a coalition that can come together to create an action with infrastructure already there, alternative to Hollywood, alternative to not just the movie, but music, but culture in general. But because we are isolated to some extent, not just land-wise, but also status-wise, it's hard to break through to the big Hollywoods, to the NROs online, and that sort of thing. Emails don't get through. It's still, you're still isolated. What is your best advice? Like, for instance, making a movie, making it right now. How do we market this? I think if we tap into this network, it's just getting through the gatekeepers. It's getting through some of the personnel file. It's not just a movie, it could be an age.
Okay, I get it. The question is, out here in the barren wilderness of New Mexico, tumbleweeds going by, you lonely and aggrieved outpost of civilization have a hard time networking the insulated and bunkerfied forces of conservatism on either coast. Something. And how do they break through? How do you break through? Well, first of all, I should say, well, I understand your frustration. Two things. First of all, I know what it's like to feel isolated. I grew up on the west side of Manhattan. And we were one of the only conservative families on the island. And we were like Christians in ancient Rome. You go out to Riverside Park, and you draw a little C in the dirt, you know. I'm gonna have a little quick. I'll meet you in the catacombs under Zabars. So I know a little of what you speak in terms of feeling isolated. But I should also say more seriously that as high as those gates seem, right, as insurmountable as it seems to get out of what you feel is a sort of unfairly ghettoized situation, you may be entirely right. Sounds plausible to me. The gates are so much easier to get over than they have been in any moment in human history. That is the wonderful thing about these acorn videos, right? I mean, this is, all due respect to O'Keefe and, and the lovely young lady who got all hoed out. Here is a law student who, looks like he couldn't be whiter if he had mayo running through his veins. And this girl looks like she should be on Melrose Place or something, right? Going in and just with a hidden camera and a few bucks, doing something that no major media outlet, no political party, no activist group had the imagination or the balls to do. And all it took was the doing. Because the impact the importance and significance of that spoke for itself. And there was a time when I was talking mostly just simply because of technology, that was just impossible, right? I mean, the gatekeepers when I came up in journalism just 15 years ago were so much higher and tougher to get past than they are today. You can, maybe you don't get the responses to email that you know, but it is possible to actually get email to the people who run the show in a way that was impossible with snail mail. I mean, the secretary would just file stuff in the shredder and would never see the light of day. And I used to have all this great advice for young writers, to mimic what I did and all that kind of stuff. But with the advent of blogging and all these kinds of things, that stuff matters. That model is so much less relevant than it used to be. With the advent of YouTube, quality will out. Now, quality may not rise to the top or get noticed as quickly as it should. I completely agree with that. And publicizing, networking, all those kinds of things make sense that are important in all the rest. And I'm sure there are lots of gems out there that if only they had gotten to the right people, it would have gotten more attention it deserves. But as a general rule of thumb, everything is falling apart for good for ill. Creative destruction out there is amazing. For me, it's somewhat depressing. For a decade now, I've been a syndicated columnist. And all my life, I thought being a big, successful syndicated columnist was really cool. Again, it's such a good cat. And I'm just getting there, right? I turned 40 in March. I was, until March, the #1 syndicated columnist in America under the age of 40. Still, it sounded really cool. But the problem is, I'm like Frodo at the end of Lord of the Rings. Mordor is just falling apart all around me. These newspapers are all going out of business. The competitive pressures are disappearing, so the price paid for my product is going through the floor. And as a business model, the business model that sustains George Will and Charles Krauthammer and those guys is vanishing. And I won't be able to benefit from it. And that bums me out because I would like to pay off. But I would rather be a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old getting into the media business today than at any point in the 20th century. I mean, the gatekeepers used to have a stranglehold on things. And, I tell people, go back and look at the early days of television. The guys who went into television, Don Hewitt and all those guys, they went into television because they couldn't get good jobs in radio. Radio was the serious business. That was the respectable thing. Television was great. It was just this frontier cowboy kind of thing where people were just throwing stuff up and figuring out what worked, and no one really knew how they were going to get paid or whether it was a career and all that kind of stuff. That still applies today. If your plan is to become the managing editor of the New York Times by the time you're 50, learn to speak Spanish because New York Times is owned by this Mexican billionaire, and I think it's either be gone or become El Telemundo pretty soon. But if your goal is to ride the wave and do exciting things, this is a wonderful time, an exciting time to be in this business. And come talk to me afterwards, just send me an email, just put turn around conference in the subject header, so I'll take it out of the hundreds I get. And I'll give you some ideas about how to get in touch with, because that's the easy part. Coming up with good stuff, that's the part. Anyway, thank you all so much.
We're going to reconvene in about 10 minutes next door, so